Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome, innovation enthusiasts, to another episode of the Killer Innovations Podcast. Today, we're diving into the topic that stealthily stifles creativity and halts progress, what I call the blame culture. This silent innovation killer lurks in the corners of many organizations, creating an environment of fear that discourages risk-taking. In our fast-paced, ever-evolving world, failure isn't just likely, it is inevitable. It is the very crucible in which the raw materials of innovation are forged. However, when mistakes are met with blame instead of constructive feedback, it breeds an atmosphere of apprehension rather than exploration and growth. We'll discuss how top-tier companies like IBM have effectively reframed their approach to project failures, shifting the focus from finger-pointing to understanding, learning, and improving. We'll also take cues from leaders like Sheryl Sandberg, whose radical candor approach to feedback balances out personal care with direct challenge, fostering an environment that nurtures rather than shames. I will explore concrete strategies to dismantle the blame culture, replacing it with a culture of trust, accountability, and most importantly, innovation. We'll discuss how you as leaders can foster open communication and encourage risk-taking, thereby unleashing the full potential of your teams. So buckle up, prepare for a deep dive into the subtle yet destructive blame culture and how we can overcome it. But before we hop into this week's episode, I have a favor to ask. Follow, like, and share. Follow, like, and share us on your favorite social media platforms. This is a great way to help us reach more people and spread the word about the podcast. If you're not receiving our free weekly newsletter, visit philmckinney.com and click membership to sign up. Now, let's dive in to this week's episode. Have you ever been part of a project when something has gone wrong and everyone is quick to assign blame? It's human nature to want to hold someone accountable when there's a failure. But what happens when we let blame culture take over? The blame culture will stifle creativity and innovation in an organization. When each team member is focused on avoiding responsibility at all costs, there's little room for growth, learning, or even experimentation. It discourages individuals from speaking up about potential solutions or ideas, causing progress to stagnate and morale to plummet. This impulse to assign blame is often driven by more than just a desire for justice. Psychologically, blaming others helps us maintain our self-esteem by diverting attention and criticism away from ourselves. When something goes wrong, pointing fingers at others is a defense mechanism that preserves our self-image and allows us to evade that personal responsibility. Blame can also stem from fear. In an organizational context, employees may fear the consequences of failure, such as job loss or damage to their reputation. Thus, they may instinctively assign blame to others to protect their professional standing. The act of blaming can create an illusion of control. By attributing failure to someone's actions or decisions, we convince ourselves that we can avoid future mistakes by simply avoiding the same path. Unfortunately, this simplistic view doesn't account for business's complex and often unpredictable nature, and it prevents us from learning and growing from our mistakes. When we are blamed, we immediately try to avoid culpability by shifting the blame to somebody else. That person then shifts the blame to somebody else. This creates a vicious cycle of finger-pointing that only drives teams further and further apart. This quick-fire response of pointing fingers, rather than seeking solutions, masks the real problems and fosters an unproductive behavior which impacts organizational results. The need to apply blame comes from a lack of trust. Without mutual trust and respect, collaboration becomes impossible. This can lead to an environment where people are more interested in self-preservation than contributing to the organization's success. Innovation culture in great organizations thrives in an environment where blame is not the default response to failure. Instead, every failure is viewed as an opportunity for learning and growth, fostering a mindset that encourages experimentation and creativity. In a blame-free innovation culture, that's collective understanding that failure is not a reflection of personal shortcomings, but an inevitable part of the innovation process. When blame is removed, individuals tend to take risks, share ideas, and collaborate openly. This creates a breeding ground for innovation, as new ideas are freely exchanged and explored. With the fear of blame removed, employees are empowered to think outside the box, challenge the status quo, and drive meaningful organizational change. However, building this kind of culture requires strong leadership. Leaders must model the behaviors they wish to see, fostering a sense of psychological safety where employees can openly share their ideas and failures. They must also communicate that failure is expected and acceptable as long as it leads to learning and innovation. By doing so, they can help dismantle that blame culture and cultivate an environment that values curiosity, bravery, and resilience, thus paving the way for sustained innovation. Now, it's important that we distinguish between accountability and blame. While blame focuses on finding someone to hold responsible for the problem, accountability focuses on finding a resolution for the situation. Accountability seeks to identify the root causes and how to correct them. In contrast, blame focuses on passing the buck and assigning guilt. And this mindset discourages open communication, results in that defensiveness, and it truly just stifles creativity. Therefore, leadership must resist the urge to assign blame when there's a failure. One way that a leader can still hold a team members accountable without assigning blame is to reframe the discussion. Rather than focusing solely on who's responsible for the issue, leaders can ask how the problem can be solved. This subtle shift changes the focus from punitive tone to accountability, cooperation, and collaboration. Leaders should also model the behavior they expect from their teams, showing empathy and understanding rather than judgment or criticism will help create a culture where people feel safe to take risks, develop their new ideas, and experiment with crazy and different solutions. Ultimately, blame has no place in an innovation workplace. We need to foster an environment of trust and collaboration if we are to be successful. Leaders must create a culture that encourages learning and growth, where mistakes are seen as opportunities for improvement rather than grounds for punishment. We can unleash creativity and innovation in your organization by breaking the blame culture. Let's talk about how do you do this? How do you eliminate a blame culture? Organizations increase their resiliency, growth, and innovation impact by stomping it out. Killing blame culture and doing it early is always better. If organizations can foster an environment that values creativity, that takes calculated risks, and supports those who have tried new things and failed, they are on the right path to success. So, what are the steps to dismantle the blame culture? First up, promote open communication. Promoting open communication is absolutely a key in getting rid of the blame culture. Open communication creates an environment where individuals feel safe to express their thoughts, their ideas, and concerns without fear of being blamed or criticized. It encourages active dialogue, it fosters transparency, and it helps build that trust and a cooperative culture. When employees feel they can openly communicate, they are more likely to share their ideas, voice their concerns, and take those risks. And this greater freedom can lead to innovative problem solving and, most importantly, effective collaboration. Open communications ensures everyone is on the same page, reducing misunderstandings that could lead to unfair blame. In a culture with a strong open communication, mistakes are not hidden but addressed openly. This shifts the focus from blaming individuals for mistakes to collectively finding solutions and learning from the experience. And this approach not only promotes accountability, but also encourages learning and continuous improvement. Open communication can help dispel the fear often associated with blame. When leaders are open, honest, and transparent, it sends a clear message to the full team that it's okay to make mistakes, as long as it uses them as a learning opportunity. This shift in mindset can contribute to dismantling the blame culture. An example of promoting open communication can be found in a practice employed by many successful organizations, the no-fault post-mortem meeting. This technique commonly used after projects or events, especially when things do not go as planned. All team members are encouraged to share their perspective on what happened, what went wrong, and what could be improved without the fear of punishment or blame. Next up, fostering a learning environment. Cultivating a culture where mistakes are opportunities for learning growth is important. By shifting that focus from blame to learning, each failure is seen as an opportunity for growth and innovation rather than a cause for punishment. This cultivates an organizational-wide mindset shift where mistakes are not feared but embraced as part of this learning process. Employees are encouraged to try new ideas and take those risks. This approach inherently acknowledges that failure is a possibility, and in some cases, failure is expected. Yet instead of discouraging these attempts, it rewards them, recognizing that every failure brings valuable lessons that drive improvement and innovation. This environment breaks the cycle of blame as employees no longer feel the need to conceal their mistakes or defend their actions for fear of blame. And moreover, leaders can encourage open dialogue about failures by setting a precedent that mistakes are learning opportunities. This leads to collective problem solving with a team working towards understanding what went wrong and how to prevent it in the future. In such an environment, blame has no place, as the focus is not on who caused the mistake, but on what we can learn from it. This learning-oriented culture encourages transparency, trust, and accountability, effectively dismantling key elements of the blame culture. It promotes resiliency as teams that learn from their failures are more agile and better equipped to face future challenges. Thus, fostering a learning environment eliminates that blame culture and paves the way for an innovative, collaborative, and most importantly, a successful organization. An excellent example of fostering a learning environment comes from a common practice at leading Silicon Valley companies such as HP and Google. They encourage their employees to spend 20% of their work time on personal projects, a policy known as 20% time. This initiative allows employees to explore their ideas and learn through trial and error without failure. They encourage employees to view mistakes as just a normal part of innovation and to learn from them. The next step, develop trust. Developing trust within an organization is a crucial stepping stone towards dismantling blame culture. Trust fosters an environment where employees feel valued and secured, reducing that impulse to deflect blame onto others. When individuals trust their colleagues, they are more likely to believe in the collective competence and intentions of the team, feeling less needs to assign blame when things go awry. Trust creates a safe space for open dialogue, enabling teams to address mistakes and failures openly and objectively, focusing on solutions rather than casting blame. It encourages individuals to admit when they are at fault, confident that their honesty will not result in punitive measures, but as a learning opportunity. Trust forms the foundation of effective collaboration. In trusting environments, team members work together towards a common goal, emphasizing collective success over individual performance. This shift in perspective minimizes defensive behavior and promotes accountability, both crucial elements in eradicating a blame culture. Trust also strengthens the relationship between leaders and employees. When leaders demonstrate trust in their team's abilities and intentions, it empowers individuals, promoting innovation and risk taking. It sends a clear message that failure is not a catastrophe, but just a normal part of the path to success. We can see an example of developing trust in the practice adopted by Netflix. The company is renowned for its freedom and responsibility culture, which is heavily rooted in trust. Netflix offers its employees great autonomy, trusting them to make decisions that align with the company's best interest. This high trust culture eliminates the fear of blame and promotes a collaborative, innovative, and transparent working environment. Next up, encourage accountability. This is critical as part of getting rid of the blame culture. When accountable employees recognize and accept responsibility for their actions and outcomes, this shift moves the focus away from blaming others to fostering a culture of ownership and personal responsibility. Accountability prompts individuals to consider the consequences of their actions, leading to more thoughtful decision making and a stronger commitment to the tasks undertaken. This enhances the quality of the work and reduces the likelihood of mistakes precipitating blame. Accountability cultivates open-mindedness and humility, as accountable individuals tend to acknowledge and learn from their mistakes rather than deflecting blame. This fosters a continuous learning and improvement culture, where errors are viewed as growth opportunities rather than failures. When accountability is encouraged, it reduces the defensive behaviors often associated with blame culture. Instead of wasting energy on assigning blame, teams can focus on constructive problem solving to avoid repeating the same mistakes in the future, promoting a more efficient and collaborative environment. When leaders model accountability, it sets a precedent for the entire organization, establishing an ethos of integrity, responsibility, and trust, that collectively working to dismantle the antithesis of a blame culture. This leadership encourages all members to act similarly, collectively, towards dismantling this blame culture. A great example of encouraging accountability is the approach used by Amazon. Amazon's leadership principle of ownership encourages employees to act on behalf of the entire company, just not themselves or their teams. This principle fosters a sense of personal investment and accountability, dissuading a blame culture. It illustrates that when every employee feels personally responsible for the company's success, they are less likely to shift blame and more likely to strive for continuous improvement. Next up, let's talk to leaders specifically, and this is around lead by example. When leaders demonstrate accountability, empathy, and open-mindedness in the face of mistakes and failures, it sets a precedent for the entire team. Leaders who own their mistakes and use them as learning opportunities show their teams that it's acceptable to fail as long as these failures are used to fuel growth and improvement. Leaders can foster a culture of trust, respect, continuous improvement by adopting an approach focused on learning rather than blaming. When leaders avoid the blame game and instead focus on constructive problem solving, it encourages the same behavior among their team members. This reduces the defensiveness and the fear and promotes open dialogue and collaboration. Leaders who lead by example reinforce the idea that everyone, regardless of their position in the organization, is accountable for their actions. This equitable approach discourages blame shifting and encourages individual accountability. And when leaders model that behavior they wish to see, it can significantly influence the organization's culture. Through their actions, leaders can shift the focus from blame to learning, fostering that environment and be a stepping stone towards success rather than failure being viewed as setbacks. By leading by example, leaders can effectively dismantle the blame and pave the way for a more resilient organization. A shining example of leading by example is Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Nadella took the helm when Microsoft was known for its internal competitiveness, often resulting in a blame culture. Satya, however, helped transform this culture by demonstrating empathy and encouraging a growth mindset. He emphasized learning from mistakes rather than allocating blame. This shift in leadership style fostered a more collaborative and innovative environment, demonstrating how impactful leading by example can be in dismantling the blame culture, particularly one as well entrenched as it was at Microsoft. Next, reframe the discussion. This strategy shifts the focus from assigning fault to finding solutions, promoting collaboration and collective problem solving. Instead of a punitive approach when issues arise, encourage dialogue centered around comprehension and resolution. This reduces the fear of blame and encourages individuals to come forward with their mistakes, viewing them as learning opportunities rather than career-threatening occurrences. In a solutions-oriented environment, they see mistakes as part of the process, not as a catastrophic failure. This mindset fosters continuous learning, encourages risk-taking, and drives innovation. It leans into the idea that progress is often built on trial and error, removing the sting from the missteps that will always happen. Reframing the discussion also enhances team cohesion and mutual respect. When teams engage in constructive, solution-focused conversations, it fosters a sense of camaraderie, promoting a sense of shared responsibility towards achieving the team goal. And this shared responsibility diminishes the urge to lay the blame on individuals, fostering a supportive, inclusive, and overall more efficient work environment. Reframing the discussion helps to dismantle that blame culture by encouraging transparency, fostering team collaboration, and promoting the focus on solution over blame. This approach contributes to positive organizational culture and positive innovation culture, empowering individuals and teams to facilitate the growth and success. We can see an excellent example of reframing the discussion in how IBM handled project failures. Instead of resorting to blame when a project failed, Thomas Watson Sr., IBM's CEO at the time, reframed the conversation. He reframed it around understanding the reasons behind the failure and learning from them. He famously said, "If you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate." This approach encourages employees to make mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth rather than personal shortcomings to be penalized. Consequently, it helped foster a culture of innovation and continual improvement rather than a blame culture. And next, probably the hardest thing that leaders have to do is provide constructive feedback. Constructive feedback focuses on growth and learning, tackling mistakes as opportunities for improvement rather than just pointing out someone's failures. It aims at highlighting the areas of improvement rather than just digging in and nagging on some misstep or mistake the person made. When constructive feedback is given, it opens productive dialogue wherein individuals can express their perspectives and devise solutions to avoid repeating the same mistakes. And this approach fosters an environment of trust and mutual respect where individuals feel valued and motivated to improve their performance. Constructive feedback ensures that individuals are not left feeling blamed or criticized by focusing on behavior or performance and not the person. Instead, they are encouraged to analyze their actions and understand how to enhance their overall performance. This reduces the defensiveness and fear associated with blame, promoting a culture of open communication and continuous learning. Constructive feedback also ensures accountability. When individuals receive direct, clear, and fact-based feedback about their actions and impacts, they are likely to take ownership of their actions. This fosters a sense of responsibility, reducing the chance of blame shifting and promoting this culture of responsibility and accountability. And by implementing these steps, organizations can gradually move away from the blame culture towards one of trust, accountability, and innovation. A prime example of giving constructive feedback is Sheryl Sandberg, former COO of Facebook. Sandberg is known for her, quote, radical candor. It's an approach to feedback which involves caring personally, and challenging directly. Following a presentation given by her colleague, Sandberg opted for private feedback, expressing that she thought the presentation was phenomenal, but the constant use of filler words was distracting. Instead of focusing on the negatives, Sandberg began with positives, addressing the improvement area and then providing solution. As we wrap up this episode, our blame culture often holds us back from our potential as we look to assign blame first instead of seeking solutions. Failure is critical to the innovation process and essential to creating an environment that allows people to take risks without the fear of being blamed. Leaders must shift their focus from blame to accountability to foster open communication, a willingness to take risks, and the growth of creativity. Organizations that foster an environment that values accountability and creativity will reap the benefits by tapping into the true potential of their employees, ultimately freeing everyone to collaborate, experiment, and innovate, helping your organization to rise to the next level. Well, that brings us to an end of another episode of the Killer Innovations Podcast. I appreciate your time and sincerely hope you found the discussion today on the blame culture and its impact on innovation enlightening and informative. It's my mission to bring you the best content possible, and I'm truly grateful for your continued support. Please remember that every bit of feedback, every comment, every shared episode counts in making our community grow. Your support helps us to continue to deliver fascinating discussions that spark innovation and creativity. If you found value in our conversation today, I kindly ask that you share this episode with your network. Let's promote a culture of understanding and innovation together. I would also love to hear your thoughts on tackling a blame culture and fostering innovation. You can engage with us on social media where we regularly post updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. Sharing your thoughts and experiences not only help us improve, but also enriches our community knowledge base. For those new to our podcast or who haven't done so yet, please follow, like, and share Killer Innovation on your favorite podcast platform. Your positive reviews and ratings help us reach more people, and I cannot express how much that means to me. Finally, for our loyal listeners who want to go that extra mile, consider signing up for our free weekly newsletter. Hop on over to philmckinney.com, click on membership, and you will get new episodes, unique content, and more delivered straight to your mailbox. And once again, thank you for tuning in. Remember, we're all on this journey together, and your support and engagement makes a difference. Here's to fostering a culture of innovation, free from blame, and full of potential. Until next time, bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.